Okay, so before the break, we were talking about the scientific method, which I suppose I could have erased the board during the break. It already ran a little bit long though, because I had to sign in with my couple other machines. So we can do something more interesting than Paul can take notes before today's out. Let's see. So just a quick thing a point I wanted to make early with the next section. That's technology has developed an overwhelming integration in our society. I think y'all are probably well aware of that, right? Technology is everywhere. I was recently doing a meeting with some people from Intel about this upcoming project they have and to do with machine learning and stuff. And I made the comment that it's not going to be long before nursing students have to learn that machine learning stuff too, because the equipment they use is going to depend on it. It's everywhere, from cashiers to politicians, everything in between. Our society is overwhelmingly dependent on technology. It's everywhere. It's all over our daily lives. So there's that personal aspect that y'all know, right? I assume everybody is here because you like technology. You enjoy it. You spend a lot of your time with computer. It's like, well, this is what I want to do for a job. Which that enjoyment doesn't go away. Like a couple weeks ago, to relax after a busy year of teaching people how to program, I sat down and I spent 3 weeks writing programs. So I really, really enjoy software development. I have lots and lots of fun with that. Like programming games, I have as much fun as playing games. Because it's like a game itself, or a puzzle, a riddle to solve, and puzzle to put together. So that's what I still did to relax after a year of teaching people software development. So that enjoyment's still there. But it's the personal level, right? That's the one we know on. That's what's bringing everybody into this class. Personal improvement through technology. But why are we in college? Make money, right? Get the good jobs, big paychecks, and get a good job, make lots of money. And to do that, we got to go where the money is. Okay. On the personal level, most of us don't have a lot of money. So that means the business perspective. And on your way through school, keep that in mind. I'm going to write it really big on the board here. It's kind of the only notes here. Businesses money. So in order to get the good jobs and make the money, we need the business perspective, which is going to be slightly different than the personal perspective, obviously. So as you go through your education, keep that in mind. You want to approach informatics, everything in IT, if you're a netty person, a cybersecurity person, a software developer, keep in mind you want to approach it from the business perspective. And learning it from the business perspective will trickle back down to your personal usage fine. But if you learn everything at the personal level, that doesn't escalate to the business level as easily. Does that make sense to everybody? See some head nods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like gravity, it flows down. The knowledge for the business level flows down to the personal level very, very immediately. But going from the personal level up to the business is different. So make sure you approach everything from the business perspective. As you're learning stuff, remember to keep that as ask that question. How does this knowledge impact a business? Not how does it impact a person, an individual? And what's the goal of a business? Profits, right? And they achieve this by continuing to do business. Accountants in accounting, when I came back to school in 2011, I was coming back from a career that the computers had replaced. but it wasn't my first trip to school. It was actually my third pass at school. I did audio engineering, really liked it. But around 2010, the software had gotten advanced enough that it automatically fixed the thing people were most likely to mess up. Like I still have lots of microphones and cables and mixers and could record a band or musicians, but that's a lottery ticket. If the used car guys aren't paying to have a commercial made every week, it's not a job. Yeah, the music's fun, but that's kind of like that personal level again, right? It's fun. It might be a lottery ticket, pay off huge, or it might end up nowhere. But if used car guys aren't making a commercial every week, it's definitely it's not a steady source of income. So computers and it had gotten easy enough that they could make their own and not have to go pay somebody. So computers had replaced that, and to avoid having a focused thing, I came back with lots and lots of ideas. I didn't know what I was going to do when I came back to school. I don't think I talked about this the other day. So I came to Ivy Tech in 2011 in quite a rush. I was between jobs at that time. Had a few things I knew for certain that I never wanted to do again, like such as cook steak. Yeah, I was a terrible cook, and it impacted the rest of the restaurant, and I did not enjoy it. The thing that I really liked doing was no longer a viable option. I spent a few years writing novels. They were in stores, some rich guy in Baltimore paid for an agent and publishing and all that. But people buy from authors they know. So my stuff filled space nicely when like the John Grisham's and Stephen King stuff copies ran low. It filled the space nicely, so it didn't look like the store shelf was empty. But I made $17.69 in royalties, but $17.69 in like 7 years. That's how much I made off novels. So I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I was watching TV and saw a commercial for a college that had a robotics program. I was like, oh, that might be neat. So I logged onto their website, and when I saw their tuition, I was like, maybe I'll try community college instead. So I jumped over to Ivy Tech's website, and it was 30 minutes to the deadline to register for the semester, which started, I think, less than 48 hours at that point. So I rushed as quickly as I could through the FAFSA and every admission form and started a couple days later. And along the way, I knew I wanted to do something computer related because computers had already replaced the job that I really liked. So I knew that would be a good field to get into. But I was in such a hurry, I just clicked on the only thing that didn't have computers abbreviated. Most of the programs had a C in there. And I was pretty sure they were computer, but one of them actually said computer information systems spelled out. I was like, that's definitely computer. I'll change it later.
So what did you want to do?
I didn't know. I had to pick something. I had to do something. And I thought school. So I figured I'd start in school and figure it out along the way.
Got it.
But I also knew I knew what I didn't want to do. And I knew I needed like fallback plans, because that's where I found myself. I was without a fallback. I didn't have any other plans to fall back on. And so one of the things I studied was tax accounting. I got a computer information systems and engineering tech at Ivy Tech. But when I started tutoring, I guess this was a couple years before I met you, Kaya, in 2014. Somebody asked me if I wanted to take over the physics tutoring at Ivy Tech Sellersburg. And I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. I like to help people. They noticed that I spent all my time helping my classmates and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I started doing that. And by the second day, I remembered that way back when I was 18, I wanted to be a teacher. So I ended up back on a path I'd drifted away from 20 years earlier. And actually, my paperwork is to be a math teacher. But on the way there, I did lots of fallbacks. So like one of my fallback plans was tax accounting. I figured within a year's time, there's a way back on my feet no matter what. And then engineering tech, because to answer your question, Kaya, before remembering I wanted to be a teacher many decades earlier, I I had kind of settled in that maybe just sitting in a cubicle, writing the simulations for engineers, doing simulations for the new engineering products. So the engineering tech, computer information systems, I was going to tie those together and kind of do the robotics thing, which had originally piqued my interest, just without paying for a really, really expensive school. Because we had all those classes at Ivy Tech, there just wasn't a robotics degree at that time. There is now. They have some neat equipment down there at the School of Advanced Manufacturing. Have some really neat equipment to mess around with and stuff. But I jumped through a lot of things, and so there's a terminology from accounting, which that was kind of what led into that little sidetrack there. I guess letting y'all know how I got here, because y'all all have a discussion board due this week introducing yourself. So I'm not writing on that discussion board, so I guess I should probably say it at some point. Well, a term from accounting is called the going concern. And you achieve profits in a business by continuing to do business. And you always have to approach it that way. No matter what is happening, until everything falls down and blows up in your face, you act as if the business is going to continue forever indefinitely. You act as if everything's fine and the business is going to continue forever. It's called the going concern, and the going concern that catches a lot of people who aren't accountants by surprise. Like, you'll hear news stories about big, huge companies suddenly failing, and it's like, how did nobody notice that? It's like, that company is one of the biggest in America. Surely somebody noticed it was going down, but the accountants and people running the business, up until it collapses, they behave as if the business is going to continue forever. It's a key aspect. And so the goal is always to continue to do business. That's the day-to-day goal of what a business is doing and how we approach things with the business perspective. How does, we're IT people. How does the IT changes we're proposing to the management make it so that business continues or improves? And how does it keep our business going? So that's what we're always looking for. We're never that end result. How do we just keep going? Never that end destination. Might be a good word there. And technology as a service to improve relations with customers. A happy customer is worth more than a few dollars. Right? That's why most companies are always so quick to give you refunds, take your stuff back, even if they can look at you show up at the customer service desk and be like, yeah, I want to return this. If they can look at it and tell that you obviously broke it, they're still happy to take it back, because a happy customer is worth more than a few dollars that you can swindle them out of. Because a happy customer will come back over and over again, as well as tell everybody they know about how they're really happy with your business and those things that keep the business going. So when you're in IT, that's the business perspective of IT. What keeps the customers happy? What keeps the employees in a good mood so that they keep the customers happy? So they keep the customers happy, and what keeps the business going? So we always want to approach it from that perspective. And then the knowledge we gain will trickle down to the personal stuff that we're interested in easily. And that assures that we get a good job, because businesses are the ones that have the money. So technology as a service. A lot of y'all have probably seen that change in your lifetime. Software development's a good example. Software as a product, that industry is kind of failing, right? There's a few desperately hanging on, some of the big names, but even Adobe, with the monopoly they have on Photoshop, they're having to do subscriptions and stuff to keep it going. But technology as a service, such as a service to sell advertising, y'all know how well that goes, right? That tends to flow really, really well and expands quickly and grows everywhere. And that's why we see advertisements on everything we try to do, because the software, instead of being like a place to write a Word document, the software has a feature to write a Word document, but the business goal of it is to get people to look at that little advertisement in the corner and keep businesses going. So as a service is something you will see more and more and more of as we progress forward. And those little business perspectives. Yes.
Question, because you was talking about the like different jobs and stuff. What about like a what is it called? A project manager? Are those going downhill, you think? Well,
Oh, well, there's those, that's still something that's going to be in high demand.
okay.
Yes. Oh, it's not, they're not jobs that are going away.
Yeah.
They're changing. Right?
Changing. Okay.
In the 1990s, early 2000s, we had to buy every piece of software. Right? Some of y'all might remember that. Some of y'all are probably too young to remember that. But there wasn't free software that we could use. We had to go to the store and actually buy something with the CD.
Oh, yeah.
Stick the CD in the machine and then type in a license number that was on the packaging for that. And we never saw ads. Right? That was the software as a product. The developers made that and sold it to us, but now we can just go to websites and use the same application, and there's just some ads covered in the corner, and the developers are probably making a lot more because every time somebody goes to the website and uses their application, they get money from those ads.
Oh, the baking.
Which I was going to show y'all how to do before the end of this semester. Because kind of good money. You just put up a website that's something interesting people will look at, and the advertisers really, really, really want to put their ads on your website. So actually, they're being held back. So if you want to put ads, sell ad space on a website, really all you have to do is tell Google to stop holding back the advertisers, and they'll give you code to copy and paste in there because they really, really want to put their ads out there.
Oh,
it's super easy and a nice flow of cash, extra cash, as long as you can get people coming to that service you provide. But in general, the general thought there is the business perspective. Keep that in mind on your way through education. What is good for the customer?
Stephen had a question. I want to know too.
What's that, Kaya?
Stephen, I think he asked a question.
Oh, sorry.
How likely?
How likely is it just for a red teaming gig from this, sir? There's not a certification tied directly into this course. There are some that would apply to the stuff we're studying here, but usually the certification courses are specifically for certifications, especially the big ones that people will be looking for. There will be a class specifically for those. So like there is that class specifically for the A+ certification. Or we just added, in the informatics program, we just added a Salesforce certification course. So you take the course and then it's dedicated to getting that certification. But there are lots of certifications out there to get. Some easy ones that I've heard that look good on a resume. So there's like customer service certifications that are basically like being polite. The answer to every question is be polite to the customer. If the customer's screaming and cussing at you, sit there and smile and be patient. Those sort of answers, and you get a certification that says you're really, really good at customer service, and that looks great on a resume. So there's some other stuff like that I can look up if you're interested in those. But there's not one tied directly to our course. But since you ask, I will look up a couple and mention them at some point. Look up some. And I will get back to you with a better answer, Stephen.
I want to know too.
Yeah, I commented in the chat room about the ads on the high traffic site. Yeah, when you have millions of people going to your site. Oh, the cybersecurity course. Yeah, there are several certifications in your on your way through the cybersecurity program. You will have multiple certification courses. I can't remember. I don't know off the top of my head which numbers go with which, but there is specifically a security plus one and a, I think they switched it over to the pen test. It was called ethical hacking certification. I think it was it might have been a CompTIA, but it was called ethical hacking, but they've switched over to the, oh wait, no, CompTIA has the pen testing. So they are switching to the penetration testing now that more HR people in the world know what the word pen test means.
Pen test? What's the word?
Pen test,
Pen test.
penetration testing, ethical hacking, checking the security levels of systems and stuff. Yeah. Breaking into a system to see how secure it is. Because in order to secure a system, you have to know where the vulnerabilities are.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of those along the way that you will definitely see. And there's some that'll just look good on a resume. I've already wrote the note down. I'll look up a couple just general ones that are probably easy to get and help pad out that resume and make it look nice. Fancy little badges to put on your LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. So the general thought there, keep that in mind, the business perspective. What's good for the customer is what's good for the business. Is the general thought there. So that was a bunch of talking. You'll probably want to do some stuff. And I started showing some of this the other day. When we're working with the computers, everybody here is definitely used to dragging your mouse around and clicking the buttons, right? We don't have very many buttons on the mouse. It's also a really bad shape. I'm going to talk about ergonomics and stuff at some point. I talk about that in every class. I have a little spiel I give. We'll see that later this semester, but drag our mouse around, click on those icons. I can share my screen while I'm doing that. So get this one out of the way. I move the mouse over to the right spot and click on it, get that out of the way. And we can seems like we can control our system this way. But there's some better ways to control our system. And right immediately, as opposed to the mouse, our main input's the keyboard, right? And the mouse, those have 2 to 6 buttons, and the keyboards usually have 80 to 120 buttons. So we have way more control with the 80 to 120 buttons than with the 2 buttons. But there's a lot more, so it takes a while to learn. So periodically this semester, I was just going to go over some keyboard shortcuts and different things to see, to start learning those, and then stretch learning all of those out over your entire school pathway, and it won't be much to learn. Kind of like learn one new thing a week, and you will know a whole lot of things in a year's time, right? Or learn one new thing a day, and at the end of the year, you've learned 365 new things. So it adds up over time, and it doesn't get overwhelming. Keyboard shortcuts are a great one. Also, with the mouse, we can't actually access everything about our machine from the mouse. Some of it is intentionally kept in the background so that only computer experts can access it, because there are certain functionality we wouldn't want our typical user to have access to. So there's the terminal. We'll look at that a couple times this semester, where we just actually type in our instructions, like navigate to a different folder, list out the stuff that's there, open files, open new files, testing.txt. I'll create a new file, open that in a text editor, all that stuff that we can do with clicking around with the mouse. But anytime we click with a mouse, it's actually calling these background instructions. So if we know how to type them, it can be a little bit quicker. And not all of our instructions are accessible from the mouse to keep the the users that don't completely know what they're doing from breaking their system. So some things are only accessible from the background. We'll look at that some too. But there are just some keyboard shortcuts that we can intermingle with our mouse and save a lot of time. A really good one, I'm on a Windows system here. I already logged on with my Mac and Chromebook to look at start looking at keyboard shortcuts in those as well. Windows X will be a useful one. So starting with the PC here, if you push the Windows X and letter X together, you'll get all of the control features. So the system stuff, device manager, your network administration, go right into the terminal, and all of your control features are there. That's a useful one. But the one I wanted to start with is our basic usage. So what do we do most of the time we're working on a computer? We're going to navigate to some directory, open a folder or file, work with that file, and close it, navigate, save it, navigate to a different directory. So our basic usage is the file system, which is the file explorer. We can open that up, click around through all our directories, and do stuff, but we can do it all a little more efficiently with keyboard shortcuts. So to open that on a Windows system, you'll push Windows and the E key for Explorer, and that pops it open. And it has an address bar up here, kind of like we have in a browser, right? It's a place where we can just type directly where we want to go. And on a Windows machine, anytime you have an address bar, you can push Alt-D to get there. D as in dog or duck. I guess the second letter in the word address, because A was already taken. But if you push Alt-D, it goes right up to the address bar, and then you can type in that navigation if you know where you want to go. So documents/delete folder. And then to close this, Control W will close any windows you have open. Then you can do things without using the mouse at all and kind of never take your fingers off the keyboard. So for Windows E to open that, I'll Alt-D to go up to the address bar, and I'll go into my documents folder, then the delete folder. I always have a folder called delete where I do all my work. And then if it's worth saving, I move it somewhere else. Oh, whoops. Control-Shift-N will create a new folder. Informatics class example. And then you just hit enter. You can also use the tab key to kind of navigate around. Okay, there I am. And if you're over here in the tree view, obviously the arrows, the up and down arrows are kind of obvious. But if you want to expand or collapse the folders, use the right and left arrows. So if you push left, that closes the folder, kind of collapses that folder. And if you push right, it'll expand that folder and you can navigate between them that way. Quickly get over to the downloads folder and hit tab and go into whatever this one was. And sometimes there's a lot of buttons here. So if you're hitting tab to go, the tab key to go through them, it's easy to get lost. So what I often do is go back to the address bar and then tab 2 times or 3 times. Yeah, then tab 3 times, we'll get to the main window. Because there's so many buttons there. A quick way is no matter where you're at, you can push Alt-D, get back to the address bar, and push tab twice. I'll end up in the back button. So address bar, then tab, and now I'm over in that tree view where I can go up and down and expand folders and get back to that example folder we're just looking at, without ever taking the fingers off the keyboard. where there's like somewhere around 100 buttons to control the machine. So Windows E opens the thing, Alt D gets your address bar, and then like the tab key and arrows to navigate around, enter key, Control Shift and N will create a new file. Or you can, with a lot of software, you can do it from the address bar. So if I go Alt D, I think Sublime will work. So I have the Sublime text editor. If you're heading into IT, you're going to want to look at good text editors. I have that on our agenda for later this semester. The super basic things that just have the Unicode character from our keyboard directly to a file to save it. That's where we write all our programs, and just the that basic level control of our machine. You'll want a good text editor. Testing 1, 2, 3. Next. Well, let's start here. So from right there in the address bar, I was able to start this software. I didn't have to go click my mouse around and go dig through the start menu and all of that. Just went right to the text bar and kind of save, write some stuff, and save that. And Control W always closes a window or a tab. I have a couple tabs, so Control W again, get all the tabs closed, and then when I hit Control W, it closes that. But focus is somewhere else. Right? I'm not looking at the file explorer. If you push the Windows key and tab, that'll go to your desktops. Are y'all seeing my desktop switch option? I think they've changed it on Windows 11. Okay, yeah. So I see some yeses in the chat room. So Windows tab will show you everything that's open and all your different desktops, and then you can just use the arrows to navigate back to the application you want. That's a great thing to start practicing on that one. Instead of using a mouse, that's kind of the starting point. Use the address bar. So let me close that. Close that. So Windows E to open it. Alt D to get to the address bar, and then you can just kind of type in stuff. Windows, delete folder, go in there, do all your work. Open stuff up from there. You can open Chrome and navigate to some web page. I went to the default one. Let me Chrome Ivy Learn ivtech.edu and navigate right to Ivy Learn page from there. Because I never had to take. Well, I'm waving my hands around, but if I wasn't waving my hands around the way I do when I talk, I wouldn't have had to take my hands off the keyboard to do that. And then Control W to switch to close stuff when you're done. And Windows key and tab will get you in that nice little list where you use your arrow keys to go between everything there. And Control W when you're done with the window. You can also get to the taskbar down there. I'll show that later. Probably don't need to overwhelm it, but that's a good start on doing some things here. Yes, multiple desktops. If I go back to there, if you're seeing this screen, you can see there's multiple. We can have multiple versions open and switch between those. A whole lot of options of what we can do. Since you mentioned desktops, I guess let's look at the same thing on a Chromebook, because there are some Chromebook users here. Which the keyboard shortcuts in Chromebook, this one goes really, really quick. This is one of the nicest things about a Chromebook. Is this a Chromebook? Oh, nope, that was my mic.
Windows.
No audio.
Press R.
it must be this one.